Hello. All right, and we are live. And my mic looks a little bit too high there. Okay, so supposedly I'm going to be playing some, just going through YouTube Studio's free music library. Hopefully they don't ping me for copyright like before when I was playing copyright-free music, but no, this should be better. And hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm sure lots of people will take a little bit to come in, but thank you for who was waiting already. And yeah, okay, so hopefully we have a really good discussion today. I had a nice break for a while actually. So like I ended school or my school term on August 11th, I think, and so I was doing a lot of YouTube the weeks after that, but now I had to take like a bit of a break. I spent a lot of time at my parents' house doing my video or that machine learning project. I hope everybody got a chance to check that one out. It's about credit card fraud detection, if anyone didn't get to open the video, but it's a really good one, so I hope you do. Welcome to whoever is coming right now. Hello, thank you. And yeah, YouTube's supposed to be playing some music. There we go. Okay, it is. And I think I should do do a full screen over here. It doesn't really matter too much, but just for fun. And yeah, so welcome everybody. Feel free to ask any sort of questions. As always, seriously, really no stupid questions. Please don't feel nervous to ask anything. I might give the answer if I don't know, um, or I'm unable to answer right now, and I'll get back to you. But seriously, please, and don't think that you don't necessarily have to give all the information about yourself regarding the situation, but also at the same time, if you want to provide, it helps me give a nice answer to everybody if you do provide some, like, who you are, what you're trying to do, like what your goal is, or if you're asking a specific question, like just some information around that so I can help you out. So again, hello everybody that's coming in, and yeah, it's gonna be a great time. It's been a while since I live streamed, I think, because I went home last Thursday. I probably streamed like the Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that. So it's been like a full week, so that's great. Looking forward to anyone new who maybe subscribed in the last week or so, because I probably got I don't know, 300 or so subscribers in the last week. So hopefully some of those new people come in. Yeah, okay, so ask some questions, everybody, please. That would be very nice. And I will start with a poll, actually. So let me just ask, and I'll leave this going for a while until people get really settled in. So I'm going to start with a poll, which is basically just, well, that's weird capitals. Yeah, there you go. Are you nervous about learning data science / ML? Okay, so I know a lot of people come in and they're just nervous and intimidated. I did a poll on LinkedIn that actually got a lot of views. People liked that a lot, so it got a lot of visibility, asking the question, are you, actually looks like my mic's still a little bit too loud. I asked the question to everybody on LinkedIn that said, are you intimidated to learn deep learning? And for those people that know me, why didn't my poll, it doesn't look like it showed up. That's kind of weird. Yeah, why didn't that show up? Okay. Is the chat not working right now? That looks a little bit confusing. Can someone type any message? Because it looks like even my poll didn't go through, which is a little bit confusing. I'm just going to say hello. Okay, my message went through. You do have to be subscribed to send a message. So everybody, please just say like hi or something so I know it's working, because I see a lot of people in the stream right now, but getting confused why I don't see any messages, but that's okay. Let me try again that poll. That's a little bit weird. Are you intimidated? Basically, by learning, or are you intimidated to learn ML? I'll change it to that. Yes and no. Try that again. I don't know why this wasn't working. Yes. Okay, please, hopefully that shows up. I'm going to be really confused if it doesn't. Let me look at my settings here. Low latency. Yeah, okay. Low latency. Edit, it should definitely say, I could change it to everyone can talk. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Live chat replay. Yeah. Who can send messages? I guess I'll try changing it to anyone. Is that the problem? I'd be shocked if everyone here wasn't subscribed, but I guess it's possible. Anyways, that should work even better now. I don't see my polls going through, so it seems to be a bit of a problem there. I don't know what's up, and I haven't gotten a single message, which definitely seems like something is wrong. I'll have to figure this out. Um, hmm, participants. Okay, let me try pop out chat. What does that do? Nothing to see here. We popped out. Okay. Oh, here. Okay, now I see my poll in. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. YouTube was definitely giving me a bug there. Yeah, I could. It looks like everybody else could see it, but mine was not working. Okay, that's fine. So, hi, hello. Thank you guys. Sorry about that. You do not have time right now. That's okay. Ah, yes, I remember. That's okay. To be honest, I'm still stuck with for and while loops. Okay, yeah, I'll talk to you soon about that. Hi, everybody. I've been doing law for 12 years, and now I switched to data science. I've just graduated in math, and I'm about to start a master's in applied maths and machine learning. That's awesome. You have several questions, and if your English is not really good, your English is fine. It looks quite good, actually. Okay, so that's awesome. All right, so how many people are here right now? Hopefully I didn't piss anyone off too much with trying to figure that out. 10 people. Okay, perfect. All right, so it looks like, so just looking at the poll for now, it says, if I pull that out, are you intimidated to learn ML? I don't know, I didn't see the results of the first one because it got confusing, but 50% of the people said yes, not too many votes so far, so please try to answer that if you can. But yeah, so it looks like, assuming the distribution is actually half and half, um, half the people are intimidated to learn machine learning, which, I totally understand because it is a daunting term. Like it's, machine learning. By the way, machines don't really learn. I mean, reinforcement learning is actually the field where they kind of do learn. Uh, Machine learning often means supervised learning, which they're really just trying to kind of figure out a pattern and learn some parameters. Like just basically, there's 10 values. We're trying to figure out what they are. Say for a normal distribution, it's just like a curve. We're trying to figure out the mean, what is the average value, and the standard deviation, what is the variance. It's honestly not too much different than that in machine learning. We're just trying to learn all these values, and that helps us do something more complicated, like computer vision or natural language processing or just forecasting, regression, all these sorts of things. And it's honestly not nearly as intimidating as it sounds, and so I'm not judging you at all for being intimidated by it. I was too. A lot of people are. I'm just letting you know, really, really don't be. Like it's not nearly as hard as it might seem. But again, that's coming from someone who's, my background academically is in statistics, so learning it was a little bit easier than it will be for probably for most people. But still, it's really not as bad as it might seem. So reaching out to different people. Gaming data duo. Oh, I didn't even realize that till now. Hi. Okay, so to be honest, I'm still stuck with for and while loops. Okay, so yes, I assume you're talking about Python. Either way, it's just code in general, and being able to code is extremely, extremely important. So make sure you get that down. However, which way you want to do it. Really, my advice there is just to go code and just to do, really learn however you want. I do have some Python videos that actually go past all of that stuff, and they should be titled like for and while loops or something like that. If that's something in particular that's making you struggle, but in general, this just sounds like coding without ignoring all of machine learning. Get that down first. I really do recommend just trying to figure out Python and get better at coding because that's going to make everything make more sense. Even just kind of the world make more sense about data structures and algorithms a little bit. It helps a lot. So however you choose to learn that, go ahead. And what else? Okay, so yes, you've been doing law for 12 years. That is fantastic. So that's super cool. Can I ask what law, if you're allowed to say? I'm very interested. Just graduated in math and about to start a master's in applied maths and machine learning. Okay, so that's really, really cool. Congrats on getting accepted to that. and I really wish you all the best. So please ask any questions involving that. I appreciate you letting me know about your background. That helps me know what you've kind of learned before, and it's also just really interesting. So I hope to see some interesting things from you there. Learn at CPP. I'm guessing you have a channel for learning C++. That's interesting. Maria, or Maria, I'm assuming Maria. Hi, Greg. New subscriber here. Love your content. Thank you so much. I really hope you ask some interesting questions or at least gain some value from the other questions that I answer here. Yes, in Python, but it's in general. Yep. Okay. So yeah, Python's a really good starting language. A lot of people would also suggest, and it's not bad suggestions to learn something like C++ or C first, because you get a feel for how memory management and data structures work more fundamentally. Python's a very high level language, but it's great for just kind of getting up and doing stuff, whatever that stuff may be, including machine learning. Okay, this chat I'm stuck using because YouTube has a bit of a bug. Actually, I'm gonna try and restore that right now because no, it does not like it. Yeah, YouTube right now is very mad at me and it does not want to show me the chat unless I do this pop out chat thing. That's kind of irritating. Okay, going back to that. Oh, okay, my poll is getting much more answers. Okay, so it's actually a lot more than 50-50, intimidated to learn machine learning. Again, I do not blame you. Okay, so here I am. Oh, hello from Brazil. Hi, Brazil. What is the best to go further studies related to data science? So have I seen your name in here before for what further means for you? I don't think so. Um, so let me know. Sorry if I butcher the name. Kavitha is my guess, or Kavita. Um, what is the best to do further studies in data science? Well, I do have in the description of this video my suggested pathway, but let me know what your background is and how much you've done as to what further actually means, and then I can give you a more sophisticated answer that's more specific to you. Hello, hello. Um, all right, wonderful, everybody. I'm coding, but like I am an idiot. I don't think you're an idiot. Okay, take copy paste without no. Okay, I hope you understand how much code I copy and paste. Yes, I probably understand what it's doing a little bit better, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with copying and pasting code. Uh, Hopefully, you're not copying and pasting all of the application code, as in you're just transferring one like Java over here to Java over here, or some machine learning model being made over here and making it over here. I assume what you mean is taking a copied code and taking a block from it. And well, I'm not going to assume you mean that. I mean it's okay when you're doing copying code from somewhere that's doing making a function that does something where they're doing it for some other reason, but need it for your reason. That's totally fine, and I do that all the time. And it's honestly just a waste of time sometimes to really look in how their function is doing. I hope you realize that everything in Python is a ton of code underneath, and we're copying and pasting code there. We're doing list equals bracket bracket or square brackets. That's copying and pasting a ton of code because there's so much under the hood. So that's actually okay. If you really don't understand what the code is doing at all, then yeah, you got to get a little more fundamental in that. But copying and pasting code is fine, and whoever says otherwise I honestly disagree. I honestly disagree. Constitutional law, very cool, awesome. You were doing a PhD, but it had to stop for several reasons, but it was for the best. Okay, well, I hope that was all right. I think once you get the basic logic of coding, like for while loops, functions, it gets easier to learn more. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, get started. Loops are very fundamental. Functions in particular, and especially once you make the connection that pretty much everything is a function. It's either a method of a class where you do do stuff bracket bracket, or it's just make in a constructor to a class of making one, or just doing a bunch of pretty much anything. Pretty much anything is a function, and it's either returning a value or it's augmenting something fundamentally in the actual memory management, or both. Okay, so once you get the hang of that, yes, life is going to get a lot easier. Hello, what are the prerequisites which are required to go for? I got the same question here, and this is confusing me, for higher studies in AI. Does that mean, does higher and further mean for a master's? Like, I guess that's the way that I would interpret that, without knowing anything further. To So for prerequisites for higher studies, if we're going to assume that means a master's or PhD or something like that. Hi, Christian, by the way. Um, so basically, y- I would probably do some of the fundamental certificates down below, and especially if you're trying to impress the people there, it doesn't hurt to actually get the certificates yourself, which my pathway is down below if you want to do that. Either way, if you don't want to pay for the certificates, they are paid. The material that I would suggest for at least getting up until masters from Coursera, and I might start to recommend other people ask me why I don't talk about Udemy or like Pluralsight, all these other popular places for talking about just learning online in general. Mostly I stick with Coursera because that's what I grew up with. That's what I learned everything, and that's who's the best in my opinion. And so for now, that's my pathway that I still fully agree with. And what I would do is, if you don't know anything, I would do the IBM and I would get the certificate along the way because it's a good certificate as well. If you already know some data science stuff, I would probably skip IBM and I would get to, especially since you said AI. AI is essentially synonymous with machine learning nowadays. No, it does not mean the same thing. For those that are listening and don't know the difference, machine learning allows to implement AI. So AI is about doing interesting things. Machine learning is not about doing interesting things. Machine learning is about allowing interesting things to work. It allows them to function, or at least it trains things. Okay, so I would definitely learn machine learning and 100% deep learning. AI often, but not always, means computer vision. And so I would definitely get to the CNN course in deep learning. And yes, those certificates will absolutely help impress anybody, employers, the academic recruiters as well. So I would recommend doing those if you are learning that content already because you're already doing it. Okay, so what is the future for data scientists and artificial intelligence researchers regarding auto ML and all the low/no code stuff? Yeah, so it's always an interesting question to talk about that. Um, Essentially, what I kind of try to say in a different way every time is that you're not gonna people often worry about like losing jobs or whatever, and if you are into this field of machine learning and you know how these things work, machine learning, like just data science in general, you are fine. Trust me. Just stay as up to date as you can. That doesn't necessarily mean to read the research paper that came out today, but it does mean keep up with the latest trends if you can. And basically, yes, the stuff is going to get more and more automated over time. Uh, right now, we can picture most often the process of making a machine learning model, for example, is I go to get data. I think about what data I need. I'll download that onto a computer. I'll clean it if it looks wrong to me. I will then think about different problems. Well, first I'll think about a problem I'm trying to solve, then I'll get the data for that, and then I'll think about different algorithms for that. Like, maybe I'll start with a logistic regression for binary classification, and then I'll try a basic, very small neural network. I'll try a deep neural network. I'll try random forest, all these all these different algorithms, for example. And there's no reason that a computer can't really do that, and I'm sure it already is, where you try a bunch of different models, maybe do a cross validation to see which is the most robust, and it automatically selects the best model, and it's not too much effort to put it into production, and there you go. So yeah, it's going to get more and more automated over time, and all I just want to say is that it's hard to predict the future, but you are fine. Just keep learning up to date trends, and you're gonna it believe me, it's going to be an interesting world, but you belong there with a good, useful job, and you're not just a monkey behind a computer. You'll just keep adapting to the new technologies as they come and make them better and better and better. Hello. How much time do I think it will take a normal programmer to master machine learning? Like, I get what you were doing and explaining, but I still cannot train my own models. Okay. PhD, gotcha. Okay, I'll answer that shortly. So, do you think how long do I think it will take a normal programmer? Okay, so normal programmer varies a lot, but I'm going to define this person as a normal programmer basically as someone that writes, say, Java code. Okay, that's always my example as the programming language that is really, really popular, or maybe JavaScript, one of those two. And yes, they're very different for those people that know these two. So basically, as a normal programmer, you probably know data structures and algorithms. If you got a good job, you already did. Let me actually just close this poll. I see it here. A lot of people are intimidated to learn machine learning. That's okay. Do Coursera, go down and get the certificates, because if you're trying to get a machine learning job, they're very helpful, trust me. And I have the full pathway down below. So basically, yeah, a normal programmer doing, say, Java code. Okay, so every day we do some back end or front end or whatever your job is, but you don't do anything to do with machine learning. Well, it depends a lot who you are. Many people's programming backgrounds came from math or something slightly mathy, where at least in a computer science field where you've done maybe taken a statistics course or two, like at Waterloo, for example. Many normal programmers have actually been forced to take 2 statistics courses and several math courses. And so those people are going to learn this material a lot easier than someone with maybe a different college or university background, where it's in computer science or programming or engineering, where you won't maybe not necessarily have done too much math, but you've done a lot of coding, a lot about coding. And so it's going to vary a lot between these different people. So I want to just base my answer with that said beforehand. But in general, it shouldn't take too long. Okay, what I know I didn't give a specific time frame. If you really want to do the math down below of what my pathway says down there to learn machine learning, and I guess to learn machine learning, you can kind of stop at the deep learning specialization, but I would recommend to keep going if you're bothering to go down this route. Essentially, I say try to learn in general data science, and then learn machine learning, and then learn deep learning, learn how to actually get really good at TensorFlow, and that's the TensorFlow specialization. So if you wanted to skip to it right now, I would highly recommend the TensorFlow specialization, but you probably want to have done the deep learning one before for that to make sense, but maybe you could probably get by without it. And so less than a year, I would probably say for sure. If you're devoting your full time to it, if you're, busy in a job, and a lot of people, you need to make money, you can't just live for free. And so you need to do something 9 to 5, have a dinner break, and then, grind something for 2 hours or whatever each night or every other night. And so it'll take a lot longer that way, but pretty much it should take less than a year as long as you devote a reasonable amount of time to it. That's starting from complete scratch. And just that, I mean, like getting really good at it, because I usually say how to get people jobs. And so, how I would get someone a job in machine learning and data science, it's really as simple as doing the pathway down below and putting those certificates on your LinkedIn. That's how I would get a data science machine learning job. You would do that as long as you get those certificates, you show that you know this stuff with a project or two, something that makes you really stand out. You're a great applicant. Okay, a lot of people haven't done this still. So that's how I would say how long it takes is, maybe less than a year. If you go to click those links down below and go ahead, you'll see that it says various durations of how long these things take. Some of them say they take several months, and honestly, they don't really have to. You can see it takes a little bit of time, and maybe I'll make a video that actually shows the math of what I think it makes sense to how long it takes for various people. But basically, they say like a suggested, short amount of hours a week, 5 hours a week, or whatever it is. And so, yeah, it's going to take really, really long if you do like 5 hours a week, whatever. Except, some people you can pump out 40 or 50 or 60 hours if you really are trying to switch into this stuff, grind it out like crazy. And if you do, you might want to get Coursera Plus. So check my video on that talks about that. It has like money falling into a toilet, which is like saying you may want to do Coursera Plus. But basically, you can really make this go a lot faster if you just devote a lot of time to it. So don't think too much about how long it would take to actually get to this level. It's more so just take the steps that you need, do it in the time that is reasonable to you. So don't, unless you really want to sacrifice, rent money and food money on just making the leap to this job, which I really don't recommend. I would do the pathway down below relatively comfortably. Push yourself, don't just take your time and be like, yeah, I mean, I'll learn it tomorrow. Like, that's not okay. You got to You got to do it, but do it comfortably financially is what I mean. And don't stress yourself out too hard. But in general, less than a year, most likely, or max 2 years if you're doing really, really slow. Okay, I kind of already answered the question for PhD, so if you have more questions about that, I'm going to let that go for now. What should I study in the field of statistics for machine learning? Okay, so yes, that is a really good question. So it depends a lot on how much you really want to know. So machine learning is fundamentally statistics. Okay, it really is like it's almost, people don't know this, but it's essentially synonymous with statistics, not in terms of how people talk on the street, but in terms of what it actually is. Machine learning is about, it generally means supervised learning and even unsupervised learning. It's about trying to figure out these conditional probability distributions, where if we give it an input, what is the distribution of the output? So for example, handwritten digits classifier, given that I saw this picture that kind of looks like a 5, what is the probability distribution that it actually is a 5? So it's going to be like a 90% that it's a 5, and maybe 1% of the other ones. Okay, so you can learn as much statistics as you want. I very, very highly recommend knowing what a random variable is, knowing what regression is, and kind of how to interpret coefficients, at least for linear regression. And if you can switch to generalized linear models, which is pretty advanced statistics, but even then it's not as advanced as machine learning is, it would be very beneficial. But to actually learn machine learning, you don't really have to know statistics too much. So that's if you really want to know, like, I'll give you the answer of like, it's statistics, learn as much as you want. But also, to actually use these models and train models, you really just need to get the idea of the bias variance trade-off, where it's basically like, I don't want to overfit. So what is overfitting? I should have a video or two on my channel about overfitting, so go ahead and search that. There's also really good ones also on the internet. So if you understand that, that's great. Hopefully what a normal distribution is would be very beneficial. And just the idea that there's various random variables like, oh, this could be binary, like it's yes or no, it's fraud or not fraud, it's a cat or a dog, that kind of thing. And p-values and hypothesis tests, meh. For machine learning, it doesn't really matter too much, although you probably will see it in regression because that's how you interpret coefficients. Okay, where is this? So you're very welcome. Okay, good. So the difference between Coursera and Udemy is that on Udemy, anyone can create a course, whereas on Coursera, only legit institutions and professors can create content. Okay, so I didn't actually know that, although that makes sense. Coursera absolutely has phenomenal content, and like Andrew Ng stuff in particular, which I linked a lot down below. It's absolutely phenomenal. So seriously, anyone listening, the certificates down there, people know them, people trust them. I talk to employers and they know these things, they love them. They are, you do have to pay for them, so you can't just do it for free. But either way, if you can't do the certificate, which would be extremely helpful, follow that pathway. It is, you learn so, so, so much. So do that, trust me. Okay, so from your personal experience, you recommend Coursera. Yeah, I did a poll. I did a poll where like over 50% of the people said Coursera was the best, and there's a bunch of different options which had, a tiny percentage of people that happened to like those programs, probably just because their friend recommended to them or they found it first, and that's what they decided. It's really good. Okay, so my background from business, because my major is specifically in finance and accounting, still, like I said, stuck with coding, but with the knowledge and understanding, I can really understand what it means, okay? But it still feels like I am confused and hard for me to make it all together in my mind. I really see people from one look, they can understand the hundreds of codes. Well, it just takes time. Honestly, just be okay with it. You really can't make 3 lines of code. Yeah, just follow my Python course or whatever. I have 3 whole modules that I tried to explain very, very nicely. So if you seem to like my way of teaching or my way of speaking, there's also other people, lots of other materials out there that are great for learning Python. Also on Coursera, they have some, uh, and many, many other ones for free. But you'll get a hang of coding. Just take it easy. Don't worry about it too much. Is Django more difficult to learn? Hi, Krish, by the way. Oh, my thing just jumped there. Is Django more difficult to learn compared to Node or React JS? Well, it's as simple as do you know Python or do you know JavaScript? Like this is about the same thing. They really do well. So React that doesn't do the same thing. React is about making front end pretty. Django and Node are about back end, and so Django and Node are about the same difficulty. It's just if you know JavaScript, learn Node already, and if you know Python, learn Django. And React is useful no matter what because that's the only way you can make a pretty front end with React or something of that kind, like Angular or Vue, whatever. Those JS libraries. Could you recommend some good books/courses about databases and SQL? So good books. So I have read only one book in databases design, which let me see if I can find it quickly. Relational database book. I think so. My course for school did one of these, and it was pretty okay. But honestly, I'm not going to recommend a book. I found them just. I think DBMS, database management systems, is too boring a topic to read a whole book about, in my opinion. Like it's just it's very very useful stuff, and doing SQL queries is ridiculously useful, and at least knowing a little bit about DBMS is great. But these books are long for the most part. I don't know if there might be an 100-page DBMS book that I'm not aware of. Look for that, but I would not recommend reading a full book on this stuff. It's just too dry, and I don't think you'll ever get through it. But there is learning SQL in general. It's very, very useful. And many different specializations touch upon this, but there is, let me just find it for you. Coursera SQL. I always forget. It's, I believe, the University of California is the one that does it on Coursera, which is very good. This is, yes. So let me just put this link in the chat here for you. So this one, oh, that's a really long link. Okay, no, they don't like, yep, they didn't let me put it there. Okay, so basically I found this, which I'd recommend, and I'm sure I have various videos that talk about this one, but this is called Learn SQL Basics for Data Science Specialization by University of California. Honestly, for if you're data science machine learning, then I'd probably just recommend doing that. And you'll get hints here and there with like the Google certificate, the IBM certificate. You're going to get bits and pieces there. Okay. Where was I? Okay, you're following the steps. Lots of messages retracted. I don't like to see that, even though I know you're doing it because I'm answering questions that are already seen. But honestly, don't worry about looking like a fool because you wrote something that I just answered. Honestly, I'll just say like, yeah, okay. You're following the steps. Very good. Okay, so let me know how that goes. The steps is the pathway I recommend down below, I assume you mean. And yes, I hope it works out well. I'm sure it will. All right. Is it hard for an international student to study Masters of Data Science in the United States? Well, to be honest, you got to have pretty good marks. It's not easy to get over here because even the people that are here that they would give most priority to, it's very very difficult for us to get in, and so for the very tiny percentage of people that it allots for internationals, it is even more competitive. There's probably more applicants and there's way less spots. So speaking, like pretty objectively here, it's pretty difficult. I definitely wouldn't say it's impossible, and the spots that are going to be given are going to be given to those people that really, really try, and just know that they can do it, that you do everything that you can to do so. And it's mostly related to marks. I love to recommend certifications for getting jobs and showing up, but this time I wouldn't really recommend certifications for trying to get into a master's in data science. They'll help, for sure they'll help, but it's mostly about academics. They care a lot, so really grind your butt. That sounds disgusting. Not what I meant. Try as hard as you can to just get in there and get good grades is all I'm trying to say. Get good grades. And it's hard. Yeah, don't worry about it too much. Okay. MBA plus data science skills. What kind of jobs can I target in the US and Canada? Okay, what kind of jobs can I target in the well, okay, so you should target what kind of jobs you want. Yeah, I understand you might just want to try and get into US and Canada, which is, totally fair, but in general, you should try to do what you want to do. With the master's and MBA and data science, you can get a lot of different jobs. I would definitely get pretty good SQL if you're trying to just do data science stuff. But I always recommend learning machine learning and deep learning is going to really, really benefit you wherever you go. People are trying to push towards these things, and it's going to help a lot. So that's what I would say. And what kind of jobs? I mean, any sort of data analyst job you would be fine at doing SQL if you're good at that. But I would probably try to learn machine learning if you can. If you really don't want to, then there's lots of sort of decent analyst jobs that involve SQL and basic Python or R analysis. But you're much better candidates if you start to learn machine learning and deep learning, which I have down below is how I would do that. Hey Greg, can you tell us about the requirements of a junior data scientist? So again, for those people that don't know, what I really strongly think is the case is that data scientist means you know machine learning. Other companies have different feelings about this, but for the most part, data science, if you're a data scientist, it means you know machine learning. And so the requirements, I would say, I would have done the deep learning specialization. It may not be totally required, but I would very highly recommend if you're trying to get a junior data science job, do at least these 3 certificates and they will really, really help you out. Down below, the IBM certificate, the machine learning one from Andrew Ng, and the deep learning specialization. I would really, really highly recommend those for a junior data scientist. And any further you can go in the pathway is going to really help. But those are what I would do at a minimum. And really strongly recommend for you getting these certificates because that's how to get a junior data science job. I see it actually my coworker right now. I'm not going to talk about who they are to get them annoyed, but basically they got the job that I am largely because they have these certificates on their LinkedIn. They also have many, many, many other amazing requirement or helps as well for who they are. But a big chunk of that was showing that they've done these certifications that these employers know what are, and it helps them a lot. Okay, so I would, for you, for a junior data science job, very highly recommend looking at that pathway and getting to at least like step 3 or 4 or so. Okay, so hi, I am with career in pharmaceutical chemist. Okay, and I am studying computer science. Great. What I like to give some advice to be able to merge both professions. Well, interestingly, I was actually talking about someone in biomedical engineering, which is basically also kind of merging biology stuff, health, and and deep learning. So basically, I would definitely try to at least know the deep learning. Okay, so deep learning allows for a lot of different problem solving skills. And so to actually know how to merge these 2 particular fields in general, I'm not the best one to answer because I don't know too much about the pharmaceutical side. But what I can say for sure is that deep learning allows you to solve many, many different problems, and we're finding many different applications of it. Stuff pops in my news feed all the time about like various physics calculations and also, yes, biology stuff. And very often it involves computer vision. So computer vision will be taught as the best introduction in the deep learning specialization in the convolutional neural networks course. So if you're trying to merge these, I would definitely show the deep learning specialization in particular on your LinkedIn. That would be very beneficial for you. And in terms of just understanding, computer vision would probably be very helpful. Also, reinforcement learning. I don't talk about that too much. I believe I put that as a bonus, which I very rarely talk about. Specifically, that is actually solving a lot of different problems nowadays in that kind of area. So I would actually recommend for you, and I very, very rarely recommend it, is the reinforcement learning specialization down below. And it's you might not see the connection until you start to read research of papers about it, but I would do that specialization, try to understand what they're talking about, show employers that you know this because there's going to be some interesting ones that actually care about that. Not all of them will. A lot of people actually won't know the reinforcement one, but there's going to be a lot of people that do. And I would recommend that for you. It solves a lot of problems. For learning about statistics and all the things Greg mentioned, I highly recommended the book. Yes, so to answer the questions, yes, these, okay, I've heard most of these, if not all of these books. So what I would learn for statistics, I don't know if this is mentioned here. So, oh, this is just one book, Introduction to Statistics. Let me see if I know that one. So actually, let me see. So in general, you want to learn statistics for machine learning. And so yes, this would be very beneficial, introduction to statistics in general, but there's going to be a lot of stuff in there that is definitely not a waste of time, but won't directly relate as much as you need it to. And so I would definitely learn introduction or read Introduction to Statistical Learning is a great book for that, as well as the 100-page machine learning book is a great read. It doesn't talk too much about statistics in general, but it gets you a good feel for these things. It talks about statistics. You like things every now and then. Introduction to Statistics is a great choice. There's also probability models, which would be very helpful. But for the most part, I would probably focus on Introduction to Statistical Learning. And that's different to Elements of Statistical Learning, which is basically the same thing, but a lot more difficult than Introduction to Statistical Learning. And so I'm saying this because like you want to just when we say learning, that means statistics for machine learning, and statistics itself kind of just means a lot of different things, and you'll get a little bit sidetracked, but it'll be very, very helpful for sure. I'm definitely not saying this is a bad idea. It's just going to be probably a big read, unless I've got this wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong about this being a difficult read. Introduction to Statistics. I'm sure it's nice and yes, easy to learn, simple, but it's probably long. If it's not long, then absolutely go for it. I think it's a great choice. What else should you learn to be a proficient professional in data architecture? Data architecture. I don't really know what you mean by data architecture. It could mean a lot of different things. Data modeling, but these are a lot of these things you like specific to data architecture. You kind of figure out on the job, and they're gonna start to use these really data modeling like terms. Definitely understand SQL and database management systems. And from there, honestly, I would just they'll teach you that kind of thing on the job, in my opinion. If that's what I think you're talking about, is like modeling data in actual companies. Where could I go to gain experience in the field since there are not yet companies that make use of these technologies in the health field? You're from Peru. Uh, okay, so data architecture. Let me know what you mean by data architecture. Try to just throw some other words in there so I know what you mean by that. And then I'll try to answer the question later. Now, with all the resources on the internet and libraries like scikit-learn, a wonderful library, we can easily learn how to build models and relatively accurate things. Yeah, you can. I am still reading about what is it called, like boosting models, and I don't know very much about them right now. It's one of the last machine learning type models I need to learn right now. And I'm using them anyway. Like I just you read how to do it in scikit-learn. It takes 2 seconds. You just say give it a matrix of inputs and the outputs that are the labels, and solve the problem. 2 lines. So yes, that's very true. So how can one make the difference? What do you mean by make the difference? What makes a good data scientist? Okay. So yes, I'll just read the question, but I understand what you mean just after that. So it's very easy to make machine learning models nowadays for people that don't even know what they're doing. What makes a good data scientist is that are they far better at gathering/cleaning data, feature engineering, or they're faster at choosing the good models to avoid waste of time? So no, people don't actually know what the good models are. Really it's a very unknown thing right now, which is like I'm pretty sure like two data scientists, one more knowledgeable than the other, one's not going to be like I'm pretty sure that a random forest is going to do so much better than this simple neural network or whatever for this various reason. Maybe there's some intuition for that, but for the most part that's not the case. We actually try many models and see what happens to work. And so yes, it mainly lies in feature engineering. I would say cleaning data isn't really too complicated. Gathering data, yeah, I mean, you need to know there's different ways of actually getting information rather than just relying on what is in the database itself. There might be a lot more you can do. But yeah, it mainly lies in feature engineering, is knowing what you can do there, and definitely deep learning. There is for sure a way of building layers. That's like you need to know what like maybe an embedding layer does, so why you could use that over just a standard network with like one hot encoding. And if you don't know what I'm saying, don't worry about it. I'm just basically saying there is a bit of a learning curve to deep learning, and so if you don't know anything about these different layers, then you're going to have a one data scientist will have a difficult time doing the right thing. But for the most part, it lies in feature engineering, making sure that you can play around with different variables and yeah, okay, getting data as well. But it's true. It doesn't take that much skill to make these machine learning models. More experienced what people are going to be able to do. Like there is obviously different levels of people on Kaggle, like grandmasters and other people, and they do different things. Uh, Different layers of neural networks, ways of adjusting data, like undersampling or oversampling. Like if the data's you know un uh, unbalanced. There is looking at different metrics. A lot of people don't know, like one data scientist that doesn't know much might say like, "Oh, I have a high accuracy on this model. It must be great." But actually, someone with more experience might say, "Well, have you looked at the precision and what's the other recall for this, or have you looked at the F1? Maybe it's terrible." And so that person would know because of these metrics what to do. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't take that much skill to get a decent answer sometimes, but uh, the more you learn, the more you read, the more you do, you're going to be a lot better at solving these things and a lot quicker and relying a lot less on just Googling various problems that people have solved. Okay, so just talked again about while for loops and functions, but yeah, okay, that's all right. What makes yes, I already read that. Okay, are there any book we can look for reviewing all the topics in statistics and machine learning before giving interviews? What skills are expected from a junior data scientist? So again, Krish, really, really, and I think we talked about this one in particular, the deep learning specialization. Deep, just to say it for everybody, the deep learning specialization down below is ridiculously helpful for a junior data scientist. You're going to know different layers to solve, make neural networks, how to, train these things. You would probably get from the machine learning certification about like train test validation sets, model training in general, and then different models from deep learning. That's going to give most of the answers that you would need. And then depending on the different job, they're going to ask different questions. Depending on what the employer happens to feel about academia, they might go more or less into statistics. But in general, they ask mostly questions about what you've done. At least employers that I have dealt with. I have not done any interviews overseas, but for here and American companies and Canadian companies, they mainly talk about what you've done and how you solve those problems, and a little bit about the technicality behind that. So, for example, for a computer vision job, you need to know what overfitting and underfitting is. Um, what neural networks are good at that, what transfer learning is, and all of this is talked about in the deep learning and machine learning specialization. And for books, as like an overview of reviewing everything to answer that question, the 100-page machine learning book is great for that. Just read that. I know most of the topics, so I could read that in a day or two. Most people would probably, like if you're doing that as a restart or as a start over. Why did I say not restart, not start over? If you're reading that as one of the first books you're reading, then basically that might take a little bit longer. But for me, it was pretty okay. It does a good job of reviewing everything that there is. What do you think about LinkedIn Learning and Microsoft certifications? Coursera, seriously. Um, I don't think LinkedIn is great. Definitely not machine learning. I wouldn't recommend it. The Microsoft ones, I don't really know too much about. I guess they're great. They're probably going to be very Azure focused. I've seen a couple of them. They're probably going to be very focused on making you good at Microsoft stuff, so that's fine. But I really would suggest Coursera, the pathway down below, or definitely books like Introduction to Statistical Learning, the 100-page machine learning book, the deep learning book, if you can somehow read that, but it's impossible to read. and any sort of statistics and probability and calculus books are much more helpful than LinkedIn Learning, in my opinion. Is it possible for you to crack a data science job after preparing for 1 year? Absolutely. So if you can devote the time, do this pathway. Okay, so I sorry for saying this a bunch of times, but seriously, for you, if you're trying to get like an introductory data science job with about like a year or so, follow my pathway. Get the certificates to show on your LinkedIn that you can get that job. If you're trying to get a job, then you need to show that you're worthy of it. And so get those certificates on your LinkedIn. That'll really show that you know this stuff. Do the pathway that actually teaches you this stuff. And yes, you can. If you devote a significant portion of your time, a year is a lot to get through that pathway. And as much as you can get done in the pathway is great, and stop whenever you have to. But at least try to get to the cloud, and then after that, it's just bonus from there. Okay, so how to write a newspaper hot slash highlights? I don't know. A newspaper highlights. I don't know what you mean by that. Really enjoying the Q&A. This is often. This is awesome. How often do I stream? Well, it's about to change a lot actually. So I'm gonna switch to streaming probably. It might be Saturday or Sunday for me. So I'm only ever gonna stream at 11 a.m. for maybe 2 hours or so, time wise. But then the day I'm starting a job and I'll be busy Monday to Friday at that time for the next 4 months. Then after that, I might go YouTube full time. We'll see. And so I'll stream much more consistently then. But right now, I'll probably start to stream either every weekend or every other weekend. What I will never do, and I apologize for this, is plan streams way ahead of time, because I cannot deal with the stress of um, other stuff comes up, but I've planned this thing and I have to say like, sorry, I can't do this, or I do it anyway, even though I really shouldn't. So I'm not going to plan ahead of time just yet, but wait in the future, and believe me, that will come within a few years for sure. Can you tell us the responsibilities of a junior data scientist? So you probably will make a machine learning model for whatever they're trying to do. So if they're saying data science, again, it means machine learning. So maybe it's a forecasting model, time series. Maybe it's a regression problem, predicting continuous value. Maybe it's a fraud model, predicting yes or no. A computer vision classification model, like is this a cat, a dog, or whatever. You could have a what else is there? Natural language processing is a lot. So like being able to scrape text information from the internet and do something with it, or the company has a lot of text data, but they have no idea what to do with it. They'll say like, there's probably some NLP tasks here for you to do. Mess around with this text, try and get some value out of it. The main thing is that they either have an idea for you to do or they don't. Okay, and that's obvious, but um, they may have some machine learning model in mind that they've either partially made and they're trying to improve, or they at least know something that they really want to do and they're hiring for that, and so they'll get you to do that. Or they'll throw you into a data science role where it's basically like, we have so much data and we don't have enough people that are working on it to extract the value that's out of it. Go nuts, like have fun with it, do whatever you want to do with the data, and make a machine learning model, make some graphs and whatever, try to find value in it, make suggestions to us that'll help us make more money. That's what they're trying to get out of it. And so again, if you're interested in trying to be up to snuff for a junior data scientist role, definitely get machine learning and deep learning down below. Okay, so very interesting about boosting and scikit-learn, and about the good data scientist. Yes, built my own linear and logistic models. Great. Indeed, I realized how feature engineering is important. Yes, feature engineering is very, very important. It's honestly not so much about, unless you're doing something very obviously taking something more complicated like computer vision. Uh, it's not so much so about what model is better than the other one. Researchers put so much effort into getting the best model, but it's mostly in what the features are actually letting you know and saying. It's just how strong the signal is, that the inputs, like, um, how important is it to predict fraud of 10 different variables? We might have like a million different variables in the data set for trying to predict fraud, but it's really trying to figure out what actually is important, what combinations and transformations you can do to provide the best signals. What should you do first in artificial intelligence? So let me just go on a rant about AI probably isn't what you think it is. AI means scary, not scary. um, AI means solving interesting problems, and something like the Google thing that just may have just listened to me right now in the bathroom. Google, whatever it's called, Mini, or computer vision like a self-driving car. And a lot of companies refer to AI as, a forecasting model is AI, like it's trying to predict something, so it's AI. The first thing you should do in artificial intelligence, if it really means what it commonly, or at least used to, which is like, video game AI, like they're trying to make the best decision, you should do reinforcement learning, and I have that down below. Do the reinforcement learning specialization if you're trying to get a job in that. That'd be very helpful. But AI, you really need to let me know what you mean by AI, what you're trying to learn, because it probably doesn't mean what you think it does. It's not a dig at you, it's just that the term is bogus and people are using it very wrong. Where did you learn how to implement ML models? I did a Udemy course by Jose Portilla. Is there any better resource to code those algorithms? Uh, well, so the TensorFlow specialization, it would be very good for that. For scikit, honestly, it's really easy to learn scikit-learn models. You can kind of just, if you know what a model is, like if you've heard of a random forest, you can kind of just Google it from scikit-learn. I also, for actually making models, I heavily use blogs. So when I recommend certifications and learning this stuff from scratch, I definitely say the Coursera stuff. But for just implementing various things, that's when I say not too much. Don't worry that much about the theory of everything underlying. As long as you know that, you should know that first. But then after you've learned that stuff, just look at blogs, copy someone's code. I said copying code is fine. Someone's making a random forest to solve some task, and so you take that, make it work on your own task. It's very easy. Like it's literally just uh, import it and then fit with a matrix of input and a vector of output, and then do the same thing for data it hasn't seen before. It's the same for that with a random forest or a boosting model or whatever. Of course, there's a lot of different things you can tune there, like the different parameters, and for that you have to know the theory. But for making the models, yeah, just take people's code from online, take blogs, and it doesn't all have to come from scratch, and you just have to have memorized everything how to do that. That's totally fine if you just look at scikit-learn's documents or blogs online. I'm gonna just take a water break for a second, and oh, I'm drinking from a. It's not invisible anymore. This used to be invisible. It's half invisible. It's blue. Is being a data analyst a good starting point for being a data scientist? Yes. I know a bit of machine learning and now I have a chance to be a data analyst like Coursera plus SQL plus Power BI. Absolutely. There's really, really no shame in getting a data analyst job. That's great. And then slowly transitioning to machine learning. And so, what I would say for you, or for the many people that are in that position, is if you are, then skip the part of the pathway that I have down below. You can definitely skip the IBM data science and the Google. Um, if you are trying to transition from an analyst a uh, to a data scientist, that is definitely one circumstance where I really, really highly recommend actually putting the certificates on there because you already have the proof that you know a lot of this stuff that you can, be in a job and you're in a company and you're doing a day-to-day computer job, especially if it's better if it's analyst, but even just any sort of computer job is great. This applies to many people that are in, just coding front end or back end or whatever. And this is when I'd really recommend the certificates down below in that pathway, but skip the IBM for you if you are already have a job in data analyst. Do the machine learning and the deep learning, and then pretty much stop there. You also probably have heard of the cloud, like cloud resources. If not, I would also do that one. But this way, you don't have to do the whole master's and a whole undergraduate degree in statistics or whatever. I often recommend doing those if you can, but for you, you definitely don't have to. Just spend a little bit of money, get those certificates down below, one or two, and make a project in deep learning. Okay, and it's very, very important. Certifications are great. But make sure that your portfolio stands out like crazy. So you still have to do an awesome project of your own. Don't ask me what the best project is. I will continue to make projects for you, and those are the videos that do very, very, very well on YouTube. The last one, it got 1,400 views in just like a day or two, which is really good. And so I'll continue to make projects for you. Before you ask, I know lots of people are going to say, make project videos. I will continue doing that. But in your state and pretty much everybody's, make your own project, see other people's and what kind of stuff they're trying to do, and then do something very, very interesting, like put yourself out on YouTube or LinkedIn and post about it, or Twitter, or at least GitHub. Obviously it's going to be on GitHub somewhere, but GitHub's kind of hard to find and search because people aren't on GitHub unless they're coding. And try and get people to see these things, get them to see your awesome project, and with that, with your current job, two or three certificates that say data science and machine learning, machine learning and deep learning in particular, get those certificates and then make an awesome project. You will be able to transition relatively easily, given that you already have an analyst job. Okay, so why is math important for data science? What's the key role of math in data science? Examples would be really good. Okay, so why is math important? Well, so data science often means machine learning. It doesn't necessarily, but it often does. And so linear algebra is about doing stuff at the same time. So that means, say I got 20 data points and I'm trying to analyze 20 data points. Well, I might use linear algebra to make some regression model. So some line that predicts data that linear algebra is used to help train that model. Or calculus. It's machine learning is about optimizing a loss function, which basically just says I want to have the lowest error on my training set of information. I want it to perform well. Well, what we actually mean by that is in calculus, just do some iterative algorithm where if this is the loss function, we want low loss. Let's use calculus to keep going down and down and down. So that's why we might need calculus, and there's going to be a lot of linear algebra in there as well at the same time. And statistics, well, that's also in there for sure. It pretty much is both data science and machine learning. If we pretend for a second that data science has nothing to do with machine learning, statistics like crazy is in here because we're analyzing correlations. Okay, so something you definitely need to understand, which is in full a statistics topic, is the correlation between variables, which basically just means as one goes up, does another go up in a linear format, or as one goes up, does the other go down in a linear format, or is it not linear at all? Is it a quadratic, problem? And so statistics is there. Random variables. This is all about predicting things, and so they're things that, data is data, and so it's happened already. Except we generally make models to predict stuff in the future. These are random variables, meaning we don't know what the value is yet, but let's try to predict the distribution of it. So lots of different math involved in there. It's more so for learning machine learning. So if you're just trying to be an analyst, you don't need to know that much math, in my opinion. No, it doesn't hurt, and it would help you think just critically about what's going on. But just an analyst, you could probably get by without knowing linear algebra or calculus. But just as kind of a statistics, but a high level of statistics understanding would be fine. Once a data scientist in a company has done a model which answers the use case, except maybe updating and caring about the feedback, is the job done? Does the company still need him or her? They do need, so the constant updating. If you do something and you solve a problem, say we're Tesla, and we were trying to solve the problem of snow in getting detected for our self-driving car. So we want our cars to drive down the street, and there's currently a problem with them where if there's a lot of snow, it starts to think it doesn't know what all this is. It's confused by like lighting issues, and it's spinning out and causing problems because of that. And so we hire somebody, and they come in, and they fix that problem. Well, yes, sure, maybe they fix that problem, except they first of all, companies don't really toss people once they've been trained unless you're purposely on contract because it's very expensive for companies to train people, and so they want to keep the people they've already trained. But in general, like if you've actually done something of practical value, first of all, you're going to be presenting these things like crazy, showing why it's still important and updating it. Yes, you said updating it. Yeah, if we're talking about machine learning, you don't really solve the problem. You make it better, and you will continue to make it better. If you actually somehow go in there and get 100% accuracy on a model that will never change in time, and throughout 10 years, you've done something that there's no improvements on it, good job. But I really, really highly doubt it. And you've definitely learned enough at this point about the company and about the problem that there's a lot of other similar problems that I'm sure you will be involved in solving. So definitely, they don't just toss you because you've done a job. Uh, Maybe yes, you've solved a particular written document that says we have this problem, solve it. Maybe you solved that, but no, there's a lot more to do. Please tell me something about how to learn Python libraries easily and how many libraries is enough for ML and data science. So look at my video. It's a fun video, so you'll enjoy watching it. Where I say like I ranked the Python data science libraries, and so that's on my YouTube somewhere. I could find the link if you can't find it, but I talk about the libraries. So yes, let's have that discussion. So you definitely need one or two data analysis libraries before thinking about anything else. Generally, people would say Pandas is most popular because it is in memory. You can very easily convert from, a Pandas data frame to NumPy to then make a machine learning model from that. So Pandas is great for that. PySpark is used in companies very commonly because there's so much data. We can't just pull all of it into the RAM on our computer. We need PySpark to have it separated into different computers, do analysis on each of these different chunks in parallel, and then maybe grab what we need and make a machine learning model on that when we can. So you need PySpark and Pandas preferably. Definitely Pandas, at least PySpark. Or probably PySpark because that's what companies need. And honestly, I prefer it. It allows for 100% SQL syntax, like just using SQL. And I love using SQL because I've done it a lot. Maybe you don't, but they also have the data frame API, which you might prefer to Pandas as well. We also need, so from dealing with data, that's most important, but you also, I already mentioned NumPy, which you don't need to know too much about NumPy other than the idea that, it stores stuff and we can pass that stuff or we can change pandas into NumPy stuff and convert that into, send that to scikit-learn for doing processing. You can also do reshaping where if it doesn't look how you want it, maybe it's a square like this, you can reshape it to look like a long vector, or you can do different transformations like, square all the data, and you very, very unlikely want to because it's slow. You might want to iterate through the rows of the data and see what's going on there. But NumPy, as long as you understand that it's for number crunching, for changing the way data looks, and for passing it to scikit-learn or Keras/TensorFlow or PyTorch or whatever, then you're good to go. Okay. Now you can now I'm already mentioning the other libraries, but from there, scikit-learn is for general machine learning models that do not involve deep learning. So random forests, gradient like boosting models, just regression like lasso and ridge regression and logistic regression. All those very common ML models are honestly just statistics models for most of them. Uh, a scikit-learn, you need that, and then Keras and TensorFlow, you would most likely need that, or PyTorch. Choose your deep learning library of choice, and you would probably need that as well. Okay, so what I recommend doing is their fundamental exams. They don't help much in getting jobs. I don't have too much familiarity, Krish, to be honest. But what I can say is it's going to be very, very Microsoft focused or Azure focused. And unless you're super passionate about that, I would probably just go the Coursera route or, you said Udemy, I guess is okay. I try to stick very consistently and say that Coursera is awesome because I know that's what works for people. So again, for the new people that have joined, check my pathway down below. I highly recommend following that if you're trying to get a job in data science and machine learning. So, sir, now I learned Python for artificial intelligence. Well, so Python, you learn Python for Python. Honestly, just get good at Python. And then there's various libraries, like I said, like Keras and TensorFlow for AI, I guess. It's better in what respect? Yep, Krish, okay. So, how are the job opportunities in Canada related to data science field? Well, there's jobs in data science. We have a bunch of like banks is very common way to get data science jobs. They hire a lot of people. I would definitely look at those. Banks and insurance companies hire a lot of different people, and various jobs pop up, like startups for machine learning. They're looking for really anybody who's state of the art. So I would go for those. But most likely, you're probably going to get a job in like a bank or an insurance company or some casual, standard level company. Maybe Loblaw here in Canada is a food company. They also have a lot of people and stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely jobs for sure. They're always competitive. Everything's competitive, but stand out as you can. That's why I have that pathway down below, which is the best way to stand out, to learn all of this stuff, and then make projects after that to really master your show off your portfolio, which is full of certificates, and your portfolio as well, just on your own, your YouTube channel, your LinkedIn, your whatever you want to do to stand out, your amazing projects. People always talk about just what's the best project to do, and the best project is whatever you think is right. Just do something phenomenal that really makes you stand out, and you're you. So follow that pathway to learn all this stuff, and you might as well get certificates on the way because these people know these things, and then just really, really stand out in whatever way you think is possible. That is how to get a job in data science and machine learning today. Um, right now, what was the role of data science slash ML, AI, and bioinformatics and cyber insecurity would it be boosted in the biofield? Was machine learning model used in COVID vaccines? Well, there's a lot of different questions here, and so I'm just going to talk. Well, cybersecurity is kind of a different thing, but um, so was machine learning model used in COVID vaccines? I highly doubt it. It actually had an impact on how the vaccine was made. It's not really that related to get there, at least not quite yet. I'm sure we'll get to the point where reinforcement learning is able to figure this out by itself, what is a great solution, but I highly doubt right now that that was involved. It's more so just research right now. But yeah, I mean, so generally, it's computer vision is the way to go right now. If you're doing um, a biology type field, it allows most of the things that we do as humans are trying to look at stuff and understand them. And so, if a computer can do that too and automate that, most importantly, that's computer vision would be a good way to do that. And if you want to learn that, then it's the deep learning specialization with the fourth course is the CNN convolutional neural networks course, which is what shows all of this, or that's what teaches all of this, really. You're very welcome. A very obscure point about the job after the model is done. Now I better. Okay, great, great, great. Last question. What's my dream company and job? Um, Krish, you're staring at my dream company and job. If we stay friends for a while, you'll see me here. Is it good to go for competition in Kaggle and do the learning there, like in CTF, or I don't know what CTF is? Is it good to go for competition in Kaggle and do the learning there, like in CTF or do projects? I don't know what CTF is, but basically, Kaggle competitions are great. Check out my, I believe I submitted to Kaggle on the Titanic video I have. It's called Your First Classification Project Titanic, and I show how to do that there. It's great. Learning on Kaggle is great, and it makes you feel really good about yourself when you just submit to something that kind of means something, even if it's not one of the ones where you're not getting $1 million for submitting. That's totally fine. But just getting there, figuring out how to submit, and them telling you got an 85% accuracy, even though it's worse than everybody else's, most likely, that's totally fine. And I love them. I love Kaggle. There seemed to be a misinterpretation somewhere where I don't like Kaggle, which is not true. I love Kaggle. I think it's awesome. And I think it's a great way for people to stay interested because most importantly, what I'll say, people will say, I say two things most commonly. One, I'll say it again. If you want to get a job in data science and machine learning, do the pathway down below, get the certificates, and then make it a portfolio that's awesome based on that. And the second thing I would say is just, I just lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Um, Stay interested. Okay, so Kaggle. Basically, you have to just be really happy in what you're doing. And Kaggle's a really good way to just be excited about data science and machine learning. A lot of people get discouraged because some pieces can be kind of boring, and so you have to do it in an exciting way. And Kaggle's a really exciting way to experiment with different things and just take one problem, even just like the MNIST handwritten digits data set, and you take that problem and you can do a logistic regression, a random forest, various random forests. You can do a boosting classifier. You can do a deep learning like a normal neural network or a convolutional neural network, and anything. Like you can just take one problem and learn all the fundamentals right there and do pre-processing techniques, different ways of splitting the data set. And you can do, if you want to diversify yourself, you can look at many different problems from Kaggle, and it's just exciting. So yes, I love it. I'm gonna just take a drink for 10 seconds. Hi, I'm currently doing my graduation and want to do master's in data science, hopefully at the top US universities. What should be the main things that I get in my resume to improve my chances? Honestly, I really highly suspect they are very mark based. So this is when, a lot of times I recommend certifications. Again, this is not a time that I recommend focusing on certifications. I mainly recommend just head down, get those marks if you care about masters, and actually try to ask people. There's also an alternate route or slash, combination there with talking to people. These are people. You don't just get accepted to university. You get accepted to people, and so you should try to reach out to them and be like, "Hey, can I work for you for free?" And then maybe a year later, be like, "Hey, I'm applying to a master's here." Uh, Oh, great. Well, I know you. I know you work hard. I know you're interested in these topics, and I know that you're willing to, or we just get along. Okay, really? We're good people. So, uh, I don't recommend certifications for just getting into a master's program in the United States. I recommend those for getting a job. I would say do any sort of learning that you can, and Coursera is still great for learning. But to get into a master's, head down, read stuff, and also try to communicate with people and work for them if you can. And of course, anything helps. Any learning helps. Any portfolio boost helps. That's just my opinion on how to maximize this. With the GAFAM, I have to look up this acronym. G GAFAM, machine learning. I'm guessing. What is this? Um, I'll look back at their AI strat, and this looks like a company. How do they dominate AI principles? How a tech giants? Okay, I'm guessing they're a company. I don't know who they are. Or OpenAI, well, they're a company. So so good models like GPT-3 and having so much resources and computing power, they sure do. They got money. Would there still be a room for smaller companies to build their? Well, here's the thing. So they are trying to solve big problems. So with big money, we generally try to solve big problems. And there's still so much room for, smaller, more specific things that maybe aren't $1 billion business, but they're maybe $1 million business or something smaller where it's a lot more specific, like, looking at trees or looking into, a specific organ of the body or something like that. And so for the most part, big companies, they're focused. Like we saw GitHub's, which is GPT-3 Copilot. They can automate coding. Like that is extremely like a big problem that they're trying to solve. But there's so much other stuff under the hood that you can really just take small problems. And so yes, absolutely. You're very welcome. Yeah, you're welcome, Korea. Um, so will data scientists eventually use only the tools and models and platforms? No, well, only use them developed by these big companies, or is there a place for research or at least developing models outside of them? Well, in terms of a research, like the actual models, I mean, yeah, we're gonna try and stick to state of the art, what works well. Except in terms of like a product or service, no, there's gonna be a lot of developing your own specific thing. Sure, it might still be a convolutional neural network, or it still might be an LSTM network, or whatever, but it's gonna be we can focus on much smaller problems. You're learning classical machine learning, but deep learning, specifically fast AI, looks sparky. I don't know what you mean by sparky. What should you focus more on? Let me know what sparky means. Um, capture the flag. Capture the flag? How is that relevant? I must be missing something. Let me read that whole sentence again if I can find it. Uh, do the learning there, or like capture the flag, like in capture the flag, or do projects? I do not know what you mean by capture the flag. Thank you for the nice chair. I think it's the same one that Krish Naik actually uses now. I think it looks the same. Um, okay. How start date analyst? I did not understand that, sorry. Okay, another obscure point made clear. You're very, very welcome. Happy there will still be many rooms for research and problem solving. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, like, seriously, I think I made a LinkedIn post about this once that didn't do very well because I think most people are trying to get a job. But I think people need to understand how much the world has changed and how easy it is and cheap it is to start a company that, maybe you start you're trying to solve a problem. You see something uh, just maybe a small problem again about trees or some organ in my body or a million different things there is. Oh, Sparky is interesting. I figured. Um, so yeah, there's so many small problems that still could be worth a million or a couple $1 million business, but people are always focused on like the huge models or whatever. Okay, so now I can answer that one. So you're learning classical machine learning, but deep learning looks interesting. What should I focus more on? Uh, one than the other. So machine learning, you don't necessarily need to understand all about how like random forests and boosting, and like I probably would recommend like regression and logistic regression, but you don't need to understand all of those classical machine learning models. Deep learning is extremely powerful and very easy to implement as well. So I do highly recommend. Basically, I still recommend the pathway given down below, which is if you don't know anything about data science, do IBM data science. If you don't know how to train models in general, do machine learning. And then if you already understand how like model training works, like train test, validation sets, overfitting, underfitting, a couple different problems you can solve, then yeah, I always recommend moving to deep learning. I think it's going to be continue to be the future because it's just so flexible. Like the one algorithm, if you just understand how neural networks work in some layers, well, you can solve forecasting and regression and computer vision and natural language processing. It- and it's not even that much different code. Like it's still making a model, a bunch of layers of the model, and you need to know what to do. So yes, I would highly recommend doing the deep learning specialization whenever possible. And if you are looking for a job, employers love the deep learning specialization on your LinkedIn. They love the machine learning one on your LinkedIn, and IBM is also awesome. Could you tell us how it is to do a PhD? No, I haven't done a PhD, nor have I done a master's in data science and artificial intelligence. Does it make a difference on the job market? Well, 100%. Like, yes, I can speak for Canada and North America, and I would suspect other places in particular. We love people with masters. Masters really, 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 really helps if you can. It's just not always the best option for everybody. And PhD, yes, you're fine. But it's a long time, and it's unless you really want to do a PhD, if you're just doing it for the sake of getting a job, that's when I would definitely vote certificates over that much academia. Okay. Um, I believe I'm probably going to stop the stream there. So it seems to have gone down a little bit, and I'm getting a little bit tired. So, if there's any last minute questions, absolutely. And I will answer those for sure. I'm not dying to leave. I have nothing pressing, but I think I'll probably call it pretty soon. Yeah. Very, very welcome. Okay, before you leave, if you don't mind, I would really appreciate dropping a like on the live stream if you haven't already. We just gained two people. Well, um, yeah, sorry, I'm gonna call it, I think. So please drop a like on the live stream if you had a good time. It really, really helps this video, or when this turns into a video, perform well. So I would appreciate that a lot. And yeah, I had a great time talking to you. So what is it? I'm guessing my next live stream will be next Sunday, is probably a decent guess. So this weekend I will be busy. The next week I'll be working throughout the job, and that will be I will for a very long time I won't be able to stream in the weekdays, which is kind of upsets me, but that's fine. This job is gonna be awesome. Really looking forward to that. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys probably next uh so not this Saturday, not 3 days from now, but about like 11 days from now would be really nice. And I will definitely make a project or two or some other videos in the meantime. Do I think deploying developed model is an important skill? Yes. Watch my Flask video. It dumps it down to the complete hour where you don't need to care too much about front end and back end, but being able to actually deploy a model is very useful. So yes, I think that would be very beneficial. And that video did very well. It continues to do very well, meaning other people agree that this is an important skill, as do I. So yes. Okay. All right. I'm gonna drop. So thanks so much everybody for coming out, and I will see you most likely about 10 or so days from now. But uh, stay tuned because lots of videos still will be coming in the meantime. Bye bye. Thanks for coming. Really, really, really appreciate it, everybody.